Hi guys, welcome back to the other side of counseling. My name is Lisa and I am one of the hosts of the podcast. I am joined by my co-host Sam. Hi Sam.
Hi everyone. Hi Pumza. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. We are having sunny weather in winter. Is it still winter or is it autumn? Where are we?
I guess it depends where on which hemisphere you're on, which
Mm, okay.
country you
So
currently in as well.
the topic for today is interesting. It's juicy. I love it. I enjoy it. And that is couples counseling. It's a very controversial topic. It's sensitive to others, it's interesting to others, but it just depends on which perspective or side you are viewing it from. So we are going to undress the topic and we are going to dress it up again so that we all have a understanding. Simple conversations. We are not using any terminologies that you guys might not understand because we are both counselors. This is a podcast for everyone. So, with the topic that we're talking about today, please have discussions in the comment sections and let us know what you guys think of the topic. So, couples counseling. Sam, how would you define that? What is couples counseling?
So I would begin even before that with a quote. And the quote is, the quality of our lives is determined by the quality of our relationships.
Mm. Oh,
And
that's a nice one.
I'm not sure who the originator of the quote was, but I read it in a Tony Robbins book. And I thought,
Mhm.
that's amazing. And but then I actually delved into it slightly further because normally when we look at relationships, it's always in contrast or in relation to other people. And
Mhm.
realize that even before we look at our relationships with other people, be it partners, friends, family, parents, siblings, whatever, there's another relationship that's also extremely important, and that's the relationship we have with ourselves, because that's the first one we have.
Mhm.
So I think that's an important point to start at, because when we are in relationship with other people, anyways, that's us that's in a relationship with them, and vice
Mhm.
versa. So I think when looking at couples counseling, we focus on the couple and how to
Mhm.
foster or cultivate, nurture the relationship. But it's also understanding that the most successful relationships are those within which each individual is doing their self-work or working separately on themselves and then
Mhm.
collectively on the relationship as well.
Mhm. That's true. And the way that you're viewing it is the perfect way. Understanding that the foundation of a couple is made up of two individuals, and understanding that just because now you have reached a stage whereby the two of you as individuals have agreed to become a couple does not mean that you should lose yourself in that.
Mm.
And that is something that I have identified with multiple couples that I've worked with as well, that people tend to lose themselves in their relationships. Um, and in that, it then creates a sense of negative feelings towards the other person. It creates a feeling of, I gave this match and you gave that match, and you start comparing what one has given to the relationship towards each other. So, with that broken down, would you say that in order for one to be able to step into creating a couple before we even get to couples counseling, you have to know who you are?
Well, I think for anybody, ideally, understanding oneself is the cornerstone of who we are, what it is we want, where we see ourselves, who we want to be. Because
Mm,
ultimately we have core values, which
mhm,
is part of our self-structure, and it influences the way that we show up as well. So, as an example, let's take simple value, which is usually associated to a relationship or couples, which is the value of family.
mm,
Now, both people could hold the value family. It's like, yes, we both value family. That's awesome. Let's continue. But the reality is, it's not just about understanding my value is family, but
mm,
understanding what I mean when I say one of my values is family. And I've had various couples who have discussed or both suggested that they have similar values. And I actually asked them, list out your values and
mm,
rank them, and then compare them and see if there are similarities and differences. In many cases, the values are similar, or at least the name of the value is similar. And then we explore, what do you mean when you say family, integrity, or whatever the values are? And that's where we find nuanced differences. So,
mm,
for as a family example, family could be your family of origin, where you come from, mom, dad, siblings. It could even be the extended family, which includes the cousins, the grandparents, the aunts, and all of them. Or
mhm,
it could be your family system with partners, kids, and so forth. So, what do you mean when you say family? And only once we get that do we get an opportunity to build a common language. So now when
mm,
we say family, I know exactly what you mean by what you're saying, and vice
mhm,
versa. Yeah.
mhm. Hmm.
How do you?
I love that you mentioned values, morals, ethics, and all of these qualities that build up an individual, but also form a foundation of a couple. Because people tend to neglect those small things because it's all nice in the early stages. We are a couple, we are in love, the conversations are flowing, we always want to be together, we are happy when we are together. So people tend to now forget to have those important conversations, those building conversations that will make the relationship last after all the nice butterfly fairy feelings have subsided. And when I say subsided, I'm not saying they'll disappear forever, but I'm just saying when reality starts kicking in and you're now living a day-to-day life with your partner, then these things come into play. Especially if you are in a couple whereby you have now discussed having children, all of these qualities and these elements come into play as well. So, with those mentioned, the main conversation that comes up whenever people mention couples counseling is that my partner and I are not having any problems. We are fine. We are happy. There's nothing going on between the two of us. We can communicate well. Why are you even mentioning couples counseling? Would you say that in order for a couple to go to couples counseling, there has to be an issue, or a healthy couple can still utilize the tools and the skills that one can gain from couples counseling?
So I think there's a general tendency for couples to seek help when there's crises.
Mm-hmm,
My personal opinion, however, is that counseling, not just couples counseling, individual as well, it's not just for when we're facing issues or wanting to work through something. Because
mm,
uh, being in the field for as long as I am now, I've realized that people have this opinion of counseling or therapy that it's about connecting to your feelings, processing your thoughts or better understanding your thoughts and perspectives, processing unmet childhood needs or trauma, and that's therapy. It's about talking
mm,
about that stuff, and it's about a psychologist or counselor sitting there and listening to you, giving back what you've said, and asking, and how does that make you feel? And
mm,
that's a misportrayal about the work because the work also includes how do I live a more satisfying and fulfilling life? How do I deepen my connection with myself and with others? How do I cultivate healthier habits, increase productivity? How do ultimately, how do I not not how do I become, but how do I be the best version of myself in this moment without
mm,
judgment? And I think for couples, it's the same because the way I view it is that, so I mentioned just a short while ago that the most successful relationships is that where we separately work on ourselves and then collectively on the relationship. And
mhm,
I think an analogy I like using is the emotional bank account, right?
mm,
So you have your personal accounts, and then you have the relational account.
mhm,
What fills your personal account is your self-care.
mm,
So are you engaging in all the things that boosts your energy, pulls you towards yourself, and allows you to engage in self-regulation? But then the other side, the collective account, is around are both couples investing in nurturing the relationship or are they not? And why I like the emotional bank account analogy is because, like our bank accounts, we have investments or savings, putting money into the account, or withdrawal. And at different stages in the relationship, sometimes we need energy and sometimes we need to be investing. And in relationships, we sometimes get into stuck patterns where one partner is always giving or investing into the relational account, and the other one simply withdrawing. And there needs to be some form of balance where both parties are investing in the nurturing of the relationship so that it can flourish. And it
mm,
doesn't matter if we are in a positive or a negative space, having a safe space within which we can be vulnerable and explore both ourselves and each other as the relationship, we can further enrich relationship. And my feeling is that you don't even wait until you married before you go
mm,
for couple therapy. I
mm,
feel that premarital counseling is such a huge need and such an important, crucial aspect that you should be implementing in all relationships because that's
mhm,
looking at where we come from, those values, the influence of the various family systems. Because if you think about the relationship, it's not just two people that's now getting married. They carry with them intergenerational curses and blessings, the influences of the family systems that they come from, because that
mhm,
ties to certain expectations, certain roles, certain feelings, thoughts, and so forth. But I mean,
Mm.
what are your thoughts on all of it, Hamza?
My thoughts do align with everything that you have mentioned because this is now speaking from me personally, because when we're in the counseling room, obviously that's not my space for me to speak personally. That is the couple space. Personally, I do believe that each partner should hold themselves accountable. By that, I mean understanding that as human beings, we grow and we evolve on a daily basis. So even if you were single, you would still grow and evolve on a daily basis. And when I say hold yourself accountable, I mean that when you notice your partner has grown, give them space to grow so that they don't feel suffocated in any way and they don't feel caged in any way. Instead of us using words like, you were not like this is not the person that I met, try and approach that growth in a way that asking that person to let you in, asking that person to introduce you to the new person that you now see, instead of treating this new growth as I am now being faced by a complete stranger. But looking at it like, this is interesting. Tell me more about the new you, Sam. Tell me more about the new likes that you now have so that I can also be part of that. Instead of attacking it or coming towards it in a negative way. And I do believe that couples that go to couples counseling should not wait for a problem to arise. Because now, when you step into that counseling room, it's no longer one problem, there's multiple problems. But it's just that that one problem tipped the glass over. So couples counseling is a space whereby you do not point fingers, you do not attack. It is safe for each individual. So it is a beautiful space where you can have those difficult conversations. You can have those uncomfortable conversations, and you can more or less address any and everything with each other, towards each other, and also learning different skills of communication whereby you both feel seen, both feel heard, and you both feel appreciated. So you don't have to now wait for the one partner to commit adultery or someone to do something drastic, and then you bring each other to couples counseling. It is a space where you can view it as, this is where we grow. This is where we check in on each other. Because one thing we have to remember is that when we are couples, we also face day to day life, as you stated, that you being a couple does not mean that it's just the two of you in your own world. There's other factors that are around you. So there are couples that end up unintentionally living past each other. By that, it's just the basic conversations of, hi, how are you? I'm good. How was your day? It was good. And then you move on. And then the in-depth conversations don't happen as often because now reality and all these other contributing factors are revolving around each and every one of you. And then in those unintentional conversations or living past each other, one couple will pick it up, or one person within the couple will pick it up, and then they might feel like they're being neglected, ignored, unheard, unappreciated. And they start to nitpick and notice small things here and there, like my partner doesn't say thank you anymore. My partner doesn't appreciate when I do the dishes, or something of that sort. So I do encourage that you utilizing couples counseling as a way to do an emotional check-in on your partner, being intentional with each other in that hour, where you sit down and you check in. How are you doing? How would you like to be seen? How would you like to be appreciated? Are you still happy? Are you still fulfilled, as you mentioned? Do you still feel like your purpose is still going in the same way? Because we have to keep in mind that these people have goals in life. two individuals had goals, they had things they wanted to do. So checking in that, do you feel like your goals are being met? Do you feel like you are living a fulfilled life? Do you feel content where you are? These are all intentional check-ins that one has to do. And couples counseling is the most amazing platform where you can do that because of the comfort it provides as well. So we let's give one free tip, or let's give one free tool, Sam, on the podcast. If there is a couple that is listening to this podcast and there is trust issues within the relationship, um, one partner no longer trusts the other, or they trust them less, and there is an incident that happened. We don't know what the incident is, but it has formed some form of trust issues within that relationship. What one tool would you advise, or would you give the couple to try and exercise in order to I'd say work on their trust issues?
I think the first thing is to acknowledge that all relationships go through break and repair. And
Mm,
that when breakages are repaired, it serves to reinforce and strengthen the relationship.
mm,
If the breakage isn't attended to and the relationship isn't mended, it can create breakage or breakdown of the relationship. And
mhm,
with trust being broken in a relationship, I think it's important to understand and acknowledge that trust is one of the cornerstones of a relationship.
mhm,
So it would be important to have honest, open conversations, of course, within safe spaces. So it's
mm,
being allowed and given permission to be vulnerable without being reactive. So having a fair listen to what's actually happened, taking
mm,
accountability for the behaviors that has been there,
mhm,
acknowledging what's happened, how it's happened, and so forth, without judgment, which is very
mhm,
hard because
mm,
emotionally you're experiencing a lot of hurt, mistrust, and it's about looking at ways to come to a space of forgiveness, not
mm,
forgetting, but forgiveness, which in and of itself is a process. Because what's happened is that I think something we don't always acknowledge in relationships is that we all have woundedness. And generally, our partners know us really well and are well versed in our woundedness or have an understanding of it. And we step into each other's woundedness
mm,
knowingly or unknowingly. And it's about looking at understanding ourselves better, our partners better, and looking at
mm,
how can we mend this rift. And
mm,
importantly, are we actually open to mending this gap? And in many cases where there is mistrust, it's sometimes critical to have a counselor or a therapist or a psychologist as a third party to facilitate and mediate that conversation.
mm,
And an exercise I enjoy using is a talking stick or a conch, where we engage in respectful listening,
mhm,
where the speaker gets to say, whatever they need to say, and
Mhm.
they have a stick or whatever to signify that they're the speaker. And then what they do is, once they finish speaking, they hand that tool or instrument to their partner. But here's where it becomes interesting. Once you accept the stick,
Mhm.
you're not automatically the speaker. Because remember, you've
Mhm.
been sitting in respectful silence.
Mhm.
Your job now is to relay your understanding of what your partner said first. And then you say, so from what you're saying, this is what I understand.
Mhm.
And if what you've conveyed is what your partner means, they can say, yes, it's exactly that. Or, no, I actually meant it in this way.
Mhm.
And then once they kind of give the go ahead of, yes, that's what I've meant, then you get to have your say. And then you just kind of continue moving between the two in that way so that both parties can be heard, acknowledged, understood, and it allows for the conversation to flow.
Mhm. Okay. While we are reaching the end of our podcast, guys, utilize that one tool. That is one of many tools you can use in couples counseling, or you can even find in couples counseling. Many gems. I call it gems because you can utilize it throughout, not only within your relationship with your partner, but with other relationships, social relationships, family relationships. You can utilize these tools. So, as we are coming to the ending of the podcast for today, which is titled, or which the topic is couples counseling, Sam, I have just one last thing that I'd love for us to highlight, which is communicating how you feel without hurting the other person. Because sometimes we use our words to attack, even if it's not our actions, but our words. So, what I use as an exercise is giving sentences or communicating with your partner without saying you, because I feel like you already is an attack, but utilizing words like, I feel this way. What you said made me feel this way. Hence, I am now saying this. So, in that way, the other person does not feel like they have to put their guard up. They don't have to feel like they have to now defend themselves, but they feel like they can hear you and communicate to what you are saying. On your side, how would you give one more jam just for 60 seconds because we're almost at the end? One more jam on speaking to your partner without hurting your partner using your words.
I mean, you actually mentioned it, and I
Mm,
personally engage in that as well. And I call them I statements, where you start with the idea of I feel, you share whatever feeling you are experiencing, and then you say because, and then you share the experience of why you're feeling that way, and say that this is how what it elicits in yourself, so that the focus is on you and not an attack on your partner. So yeah, I think I statements are quite important with the
mm,
I feel because. So I feel the emotion because the experience, and then because it makes me feel. So I was watching a movie the other day with my wife, and there was this example that was in the movie where the wife got very upset because the man kept leaving his socks on the floor, and she wanted him to throw it in the washing bin,
mm,
and they kind of had like a fight about it. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, They could have used I statements here. So she
Mm,
said, I feel upset when you throw your socks on the floor because when you do that,
mm,
it makes me feel unheard and unappreciated because of whatever reason. And that, for me, that's
mm.
how the I statements can come into play, as you yourself said as well.
It's an amazing set. Small thing can make a very big difference in how you speak to others and how you address certain things. And like that, we have been dropping gems. We have been telling you guys the advantages of going to couples counseling without issues being there. We have now reached the end of our podcast. Before we say goodbye, I have nothing to say on my side. I've dropped all the gems that I can drop for today. If you'd like more gems and you feel like you can utilize couples counseling, you can book a counselor of your choice on www.therapynow.co.za, and that is where you will find us and our colleagues as well. On your side, Sam, is there anything that you'd like to add before we say our final goodbyes?
I think let's end the way we started. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
such a beautiful way of speaking into the relationship. The quality of our lives are determined
Mm-hmm.
by the quality of our relationship. And I think I will leave it there. Thank you guys for
Mm-hmm.
listening and for being a part of this conversation. We'll see you next time.
Bye.